Imagine standing in front of a mirror, the reflection staring back at you. Not just an image, but a gateway to your soul. You see a child, innocent and fragile, and then, in a blink of an eye, you see your current self, shaped by the storms you've weathered. You look into your eyes and ask your reflection, was it all worth it? The reflection nods, a silent testament to a journey full of resilience and transformation. This is not just my story, it's a story of us all. Our battles, our triumphs, and our unyielding hope that propels us forward. My journey commenced with the absence of my father, a void that could have swallowed me whole. Yet, in its place grew a garden of strength nurtured by my grandfather, my dada. He became like a father figure to me, someone who guided me through life's greatest lesson, and not only taught me through the wisdom he embodied, but also through the love and resilience that he had. We embarked on various adventures together, each one a chapter in our shared story of unspoken bonds and lessons. I was born in an upper middle class family. I had everything a child could possibly ask for, except the most important thing, happiness. I was 3 when my father left, and it's been 13 years since. At that age, I felt like my whole childhood had gone. In an instant, everything had disappeared. My mother was the only constant, and everything I have become and everything I will be, I owed to her. She's someone who's taught me to be strong-hearted, confident, and to be everything else, but most importantly, be kind. I was shaped by typical circumstances. Not everything was easy for me. I was dealt with a very tough hand. But I liked my solitude. I liked the way that I was able to cope with it because I delved into so many extracurriculars that my mind didn't have a minute to stop and just think about what was going on in my life. Think about the fact that my life was in shambles and it was an utter mess. I had no idea that I was so forward and that everyone around me could notice what I was going through. And I still believe that the mass majority was not, but to my mother, she knew it all. I tried convincing her that there was nothing wrong, that I was fine, and nothing else happened. But Mata Mahi hoti hai na. And even though she didn't always explicitly say it, I knew that I had her unwavering support. I want to talk about something that's not spoken about a lot in society, and that is mental health. For far too long in our society, we've been told to be ashamed that we want help or we need to seek help from a therapist or a mental health professional. And to me, that seems absolutely wrong because when I was going through something, I didn't have anyone to share with, or so I thought. And that's why I spent my whole journey being alone. I was in a solitary confinement in my own house, and I never went to anywhere else. But at that moment, when I was in my suffering, I understood that it's not a solitary journey. It's not a journey I go alone. It's a journey that I must take with the people who've been there for me from the start, especially my mother and my grandfather. I also want to mention that mental health and physical well-being are two things that are very deeply interconnected. When we think about mental health, we do not think about it as a separate entity. We think about it together. Whenever you're feeling mentally ill or mentally low, you just go for a run, and I assure you that makes you feel better. It did for me. But at the same time, it also makes you understand that life has its way of working things out, and that in the end, it will all be fine. Even though I didn't believe this myself when I was going through everything, whenever someone told me, it'll be all right, chill, everything's fine. But it was not. And I was the only person who knew that, and my mother. I also want to talk about something that we very widely disregard in society. When we think about safety and respect, we think about it through two gender constructs, for boys and for girls. When I was in 5th grade, we had this seminar where it was very mundane for me at the time because it was something that I had to go to, right? It was something that school made us go to and sit through for like a whole hour. But I now understand how important and how significant that was in my life because that seminar, those 60 minutes, taught me that gender equality works both ways. not only one way. And the idea of respect and the idea of safety should be shared with both genders, which should be shared with everyone around the world. Let's make this a little interactive, shall we? How many of you here, to the parents, have talked to your children about mental health or talked about good touch and bad touch? Raising your hand. To those who raise your hand, I honestly applaud you, because even though you might think this is insignificant at the moment, but it's something that will lead us to a greater Bharat, lead us to a greater world, and lead us to champion the people who we want to see in the future. But it's not just about making changes. It's about fostering hope. It's about starting a movement. And it's about breaking the walls that we've ever so built around our hearts. So let's start those conversations today, and let's make it the world. A lot of things happen in everyone's life. No one goes through life without facing that set of challenges. And even though we know that, sometimes we seem to forget. And these can be seen in everyday examples. Let's take it for instance. My mother and I were going shopping the other day, and there were these children outside on the street asking for ice cream. Now, everyone here gets ice cream whenever they want, right? You don't have to ask for someone for it. You can just go buy it. But at that moment, the simple act of my mother buying them ice cream on a relatively hot day was something that I realized at that moment is what true happiness is. Because I saw that those children were actually jumping around in glee for an ice cream. And I thought it seemed very, absurd to me, because I'd have never thought about life that way. We've never thought about life other than the materialistic things we've seen, or, just appreciating, being grateful for something that's as simple as waking up in the morning. And that is what we need to understand today. For me, healing was not a simple journey. It was actually quite difficult, because the past grabbed onto me. It told me you cannot go forward, and it literally clenched onto me. But all I wanted in that moment was to heal and to escape that vicious cycle of blaming myself and then getting hurt and then blaming myself again and then getting hurt. And so I did. But my healing happened in 4 steps. The first step was admitting to myself that it wasn't my fault. Admitting to myself that what happened that day was no one's individual fault, and the series that occurred were a series of events that had been led on for a long time. But I didn't accept that fact. Then came a little bit of anger. The anger that my father was not there. The person who was supposed to provide for me all my life was not there. And that thought boggled my mind, honestly. I used to go online on the internet on Father's Day and search up these images of their fathers with their daughter. And it made me cry every night. It was very sad at the time. It was something that I felt at that moment. I felt anger, but at the same time, I felt grief that maybe I should have been better. Maybe I should have been a better daughter. And maybe then my father would have stuck it out. Finally came the acceptance. The final acceptance that what had happened was in the past. It was not in my present. And why should I ruin a beautiful present because of something that happened in the past? That's when I understood that life isn't about delving into the future or staying in the past. It's about living in the moment, living in the present, living with the experiences that you. I always related to this poem by Robert Frost, which many of you, I believe, would know. The Road Not Taken. I too had roads that diverged into the woods, and I took the one less traveled by, and for me, that made all the difference. I also want to mention again that when we're talking about wealth, when we're talking about richness, it isn't about money. We went to this rural school through my NGO where we did this event to them. And over there, these children had the biggest smiles on their face. Like, they were absolutely happy. Like, blissful, honestly. And that's when I understood the true meaning of happiness. I understood that happiness doesn't come from materialistic things. It doesn't come from luxury brands or getting beautiful cars. It comes from within. And it comes from the people you surround yourselves with, the company you have. And I believe that's something very important. In my experiences, I've understood that a lot of what's in the world, what we don't know about, can only be seen when we connect to people on the ground level, when we connect to the world, when we connect to our roots. That's when I started community service, honestly, because I wanted to give back to the world. I wanted to give back to the people who were facing the same things I did, who felt like they didn't have anyone to talk to, even though they did. Everyone around them was reaching out, but they just didn't want to grab onto a hand. I've delved into a lot of things. I've delved into domestic violence. I've delved into various activate being issues. I've delved into mental health as well. And I understand now that what we explore, what we've learned in our education system or anywhere else, doesn't even begin to scratch the surface. It doesn't even begin to poke at what is actually the grassroots level of these issues. I truly believe that advocacy is necessary in today's world. And that's why I wanted to start these services. I wanted to become someone who is able to speak for the people who are voiceless, speak for the people who are unheard of. Our society, our Bharat, stands at a crossroad between understanding and accepting mental health as an issue. And at the same time, it's not just necessary for us to understand this, it's imperative. I'd like to end by a quote by Martin Luther King Jr. The arc of the universe is long, but it bends towards justice. That unwavering belief, that unwavering support, and that unwavering faith in justice and equality and humanity is what has driven me. Because I understand that even if we take one step forward, that's one step closer to humanity. And that's one step closer to a better world.